I never imagined that at 69 years old, I'd be standing at my kitchen table, staring at my only son's wedding invitation, with my name scratched out in red ink, as if I were some unwanted intruder. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Above the elegant calligraphy, in harsh, cold lettering, was a message he had written himself. If you chose not to support our new beginning, then you have no place in it. My name crossed out. My heart torn apart. My name is Margaret Ellery, and the man who wrote those words was my son, Caleb. A brilliant civil engineer I raised with every ounce of love a woman could give after losing her husband far too soon. And now, because I refused to sell the home we had lived in for over 30 years, he erased me from his life. Literally. The woman he was marrying, Bianca Templeton, came from one of the most powerful families in Riverbend, Montana, a place where appearances meant more than affection. And she wanted a wedding that reflected her family name, not our history. You could sell that house and live comfortably in a senior community, she told me with a rehearsed smile, tracing her porcelain nails along the stem of a wine glass. And you'd be helping Caleb start his marriage with some dignity. With dignity. As if what I built with my own hands held less worth than some flashy facade. That conversation ended with me sitting alone at that overpriced restaurant table, paying the bill with what little I had left on my credit card. Caleb didn't even say goodbye. Something in me broke that night. But what he didn't know was that the wedding day would bring far more than vows and white dresses. It would bring truth. Truths neither of them were ready to face. That morning, while I was ironing the soft blue dress I'd bought, just to watch from afar like a ghost, the landline rang. No one ever called it, except those who truly wanted to speak to me. I picked up. Hello? On the other end, a woman's voice, nervous, fragile, almost breaking. Mrs. Ellery? Margaret Ellery? Are you Caleb's mother? Yes. Who's this? My name is Natalie Rivers. I used to be Bianca's roommate years ago. You don't know me, but please hear me out. There was a silence, the kind of silence that chills your hands before a single word is spoken. Then she continued, You need to know who your son is marrying, and you need to know now, before he makes a mistake he can't undo. In that moment, I knew. The story I thought had ended with a crossed-out invitation was only just beginning. And if you, like me, have ever felt like the world turned its back on you when all you did was love with everything you had, subscribe to this channel. Sometimes, all we need is a story to remind us of who we truly are. Still holding the phone, my whole body felt frozen. Natalie's words echoed like distant thunder inside me. My eyes stared into the void as the morning outside revealed itself through a thin layer of fog, blanketing Elderwood Street like even the sky itself was holding its breath, waiting for what was to come. I'm sorry for calling like this, without warning, Natalie continued, her voice broken with hesitation. But I couldn't sleep all night. And when I realized today was the wedding, something inside me just pushed me to speak up. Bianca? She's not who she pretends to be. I slowly sank into the armchair in the living room, my knees cracking, as if my body already sensed that it was about to endure something painful. The house was silent, save for the soft tick-tock of the wall clock and the faint whistle of the wind making the curtains sway. I reached for the blanket draped over the back of the couch and pulled it around my shoulders. Not because of the cold, but for comfort. I knew. Something inside me was about to break. Please go on, I whispered. I'm listening. Natalie took a deep breath on the other end, and then she began. I lived with Bianca for 2 years, before she met Caleb. At first, she was charming, magnetic, friendly. She had this way of making everyone around her feel small, but with a smile so disarming that no one noticed. But slowly, I started to see a pattern. I remained silent, but my fingers started gripping the blanket unconsciously, tightening in slow pulses. The way she described Bianca, it matched the very things I had already felt. The calculated stare, the rehearsed compliments, the invasive questions about my retirement, about the deed to the house, all disguised as polite interest. Margaret, Natalie said, her voice trembling, She's done this before. She targets men from modest families, especially when the parents have assets but not much cash. She manipulates, creates a perfect fantasy life, pushes for a lavish wedding, and then somehow the family ends up losing everything. In the end, she disappears. With the gifts, the money, and a curated version of the story posted online. With each word, my breathing grew shallower. My hands, now resting on my lap, were trembling slightly. I felt the metallic taste of anger rising in my throat. "You refused to sell your house, didn't you?" she asked, more softly this time. "I did," I answered, steady, "and I was cut out of the ceremony because of it." There was a pause, then a long, heavy sigh, the kind that confirms a long-held suspicion. "That's what I feared. She's in serious financial trouble. She lost her job months ago for forging contracts at a marketing agency. She's drowning in debt. And your son, well, he's her next solution." Anger and fear tangled like a knot in my chest. I looked around the room, the modest living room, the worn sofa, the photos of little Caleb on the shelf, his childhood drawings still taped to the fridge, the life I built, now being turned into profit for someone else. Then Natalie added, her tone pleading, "I have proof, copies of contracts, screenshots, audio recordings. I just sent them all to your email. I'm sorry it took me so long to speak up, but you can still stop this." I hung up with a barely audible thank you. I sat there for a few minutes, unmoving, tears rolling warm down my cheeks. Then I stood up, slowly, but with purpose. I grabbed my bag, the printed documents, and the old silver compass that once belonged to Caleb's grandfather, the wedding gift I never thought I'd deliver. But now, maybe it held a new meaning. I opened the front door, and for the first time in months, I went after my son. Becca's car was already waiting outside. She turned off the engine the moment she saw me step out. Puffy eyes, but steady steps. A friend since our nursing school days, Becca had always been my silent anchor. 72 years old, silver hair thrown into a rushed bun, a tongue as sharp as a scalpel, but a heart bigger than any hospital we'd ever worked in. She watched closely as I locked my front door. Her gray-blue eyes narrowed when she noticed the folder of documents tucked under my arm. "Something tells me you're not going to that wedding just to watch from afar," she murmured, stepping out of the car and opening the glove compartment. "What happened, Maggie?" I got a call from a woman named Natalie. She used to be roommates with Bianca. She told me things that change everything, I said, my voice still shaking. "I have proof, a lot of it." Becca grabbed her reading glasses, sliding them onto her nose. She took the folder gently, as if it were a bomb ready to go off. "So you're going there, to show Caleb?" I nodded, swallowing back the tears. "He needs to see it with his own eyes before he makes a mistake he can't take back. If I don't try, I'll regret it for the rest of my life, even if he ends up hating me." She sighed and unlocked the car. "Get in, we'll figure it out. But fair warning, if that woman lays a finger on me, I'll drop the Nurse Act and let the ER Becca come out to play." We got into the car. The sound of the seatbelt locking in place was the click that sent my heart racing. The road to the venue, the lavish Willow Springs manor, wound through golden wheat fields and autumn-stained hills. But even the beauty of the landscape couldn't quiet what was churning inside me. In the passenger seat, I clenched my hands tightly in my lap. Becca's silence was the best gift she could give me at that moment. But as the mansion came into view through the trees, towering like a glass castle, she finally spoke. "What if he doesn't believe you?" she asked gently. I took a deep breath. "Then I'll walk away. But at least I'll know I did what was right." We parked far away, near the rear wing. Years of hospital work had taught me this. There's always a side entrance, used by those who carry weight or truth. Becca straightened her posture, took the folder, and walked beside me with the confidence of someone who had faced true emergencies. "Are you sure you can handle this?" she whispered, as we spotted the security guards at the front entrance. "I am," I lied. "Or maybe I'm not. But I'm doing it anyway." We circled around the main building and found the service access. 2 young staff members were carrying silver trays stacked with glasses. Becca stepped forward, her voice firm and commanding, the kind that brooks no argument. "Take us to the groom. We have an urgent message from the family." The boys exchanged a glance, hesitated, but under Becca's authoritative tone, one of them pointed toward the east wing. "Groomsman's dressing room, 2nd floor, but he's about to head out in 10 minutes. We climbed the stairs with quiet, measured steps. My heart was pounding, my mouth was dry, and my hands trembled slightly as I clutched the folder. At the end of the hallway, I heard muffled laughter. A door with a golden plaque read, "Groomsman's Suite." I knocked, once, then twice. The door opened, and there he was, my son, in a flawless tuxedo, face pale, and his eyes stunned. "Mom?" Time froze between us. He looked at Becca, then at me. Before he could speak, I stepped forward and said, my voice trembling, "Caleb, just listen to me for 5 minutes. That's all I ask. After that, if you never want to see me again, I'll understand." For a moment, Caleb's face hardened. It was the same look he had when he shut down as a boy, after getting scolded at school or when he got hurt and pretended it didn't sting. But now, that look was sharper. Adult. Cold. "You were clear, Mom," he said, voice restrained. "You're not welcome here today." Becca stepped forward, trying to mediate. "Caleb, she didn't come here to cause trouble, but there's something you need to know. Something serious, son. It's about Bianca." He scoffed, disbelieving. "This again? Why can't anyone just accept that I'm happy with her?" "Because you're not," I replied, my voice breaking but steady. "You're living an illusion, Caleb. And I brought proof, not guesses. Proof." He hesitated, looked around as if searching for support from his groomsmen, but they were all busy adjusting boutonnieres or rehearsing smiles in the mirror. We were alone in the narrow hallway, with the warm glow of the sconces casting delicate shadows on the pale wooden walls. 5 minutes, he growled through gritted teeth. But not here, not where everyone can see. He led us to a small side room, a waiting area with a cream-colored sofa and heavy curtains. The distant sound of the orchestra rehearsing in the garden wrapped around us like a reminder that time was short. Caleb shut the door, leaned against the wall, and crossed his arms. "Talk." Becca handed over the folder. I sat down slowly, pulling out the documents with trembling hands. This woman, Natalie, lived with Bianca, and not just her. She witnessed other stories too. "Caleb, this isn't the first time Bianca's been involved with men like you." He frowned. "What do you mean, like me?" "Successful professionals, with parents who have assets. She gets close, charms them, and then starts pushing for a grand wedding, and financial help from the family. There's always an excuse, some urgency, some pressure to sell something, like my house." Caleb's face turned red. "This is ridiculous. A conspiracy theory. She treated you with respect, included you in everything, until you refused to help. I refused to sacrifice my history to fund a spectacle that only served her ego," I snapped, my voice rising. "And now I know Bianca's done this before, 3 times. She ended the engagements right after the families handed over their savings. Then she vanished, always leaving the parents ruined and the men emotionally wrecked." He stood frozen. Becca pulled out her phone and played an audio. Bianca's unmistakable voice filled the room, drunken giggles laced with venom, mocking Caleb, calling me a stubborn old lady, and saying, "Just another emotional inheritance tied to an old house. They always give in. Always." Caleb's eyes widened. He stepped back, then again. His hands opened, as if trying to rid himself of some invisible weight suffocating him. "This could be edited. Faked. I know it's a lot. I know it's hard," I said, standing up and looking him straight in the eyes. "But you know me, Caleb. I've never lied to you. I wouldn't have come here unless it was out of love. I came because you're still my son. And I love you too much to stand by while you give yourself to someone who only wants what you have, not who you are." The clock on the wall read 10:49. The ceremony would begin in 11 minutes. He turned his back to us, shoulders tense, ran his hand through his carefully combed hair, undoing it without noticing. "I don't know what to do," he whispered. "Yes, you do," Becca said. "You're just scared." He went silent, and when he finally turned back to us, I saw it. He believed us. Caleb held the folder like it might collapse in his hands. The papers trembled as his eyes scanned the printed messages, the screenshots, the bank statements, and the photos from weddings that never happened, each one with Bianca at the center. He sat on the arm of the couch, elbows on his knees, fingers tangled in his hair. It was a gesture I'd seen since his school days, whenever he didn't know how to explain a mistake or deal with a hard truth. But this time, it was different. There was shame, doubt, and hurt. "Why would she do this to me?" he whispered, almost like a child. "To me?" I walked over slowly. I didn't touch him. I just sat beside him, letting the silence say what words couldn't. "Because you're good," I said softly. "Because you trust. Because you're trying to build something real. And people like that, they're the easiest to fool by those who don't know how to love." He closed his eyes, swallowed hard. Becca stood by the door, like a sentry, ready to step in, but honoring our moment. "So what now?" he murmured. "There are over 200 people outside. Bianca's father is here, my co-workers, college friends, everyone." "You choose who you want to be," Becca said, her voice sharp and clear. "The man who pretends out of shame, or the man who stands up with dignity." Caleb looked at her, then at me. "And what if no one believes me?" "Then believe in yourself first," I said. "The rest will follow." A gentle knock at the door. Caleb rose instinctively, his eyes still glassy, and opened it. It was Andrew, his best friend since sophomore year of college and one of his groomsmen. Tall, with a kind face, though now it was tight with tension, his tie already loosened. "Man, the wedding planner's freaking out. Bianca's dad is with the pastor. The music's already started." He stopped when he saw me. "Mrs. Ellery, you're here?" "I needed to see him," I said simply. Andrew looked from Caleb to the papers in his hands. I saw the shift in his face, the way his eyes darkened as he read the first few lines. "You've seen all this?" he asked Caleb. My son nodded, slowly, like someone still battling the storm inside. Andrew stepped in and closed the door behind him. "So, what are you going to do?" Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up slowly, removed his tie, ran his fingers through his hair, undoing its perfect comb as if peeling away the illusion. Then he looked at me, with pain, with courage, and something I hadn't seen in him for a long time. Clarity. "I'm going to talk to her, look her in the eye, and ask. I can't do this without giving her a chance to answer. But if she lies, if she confirms it with silence or rage, I'll call it off." Andrew nodded. "You want me to come with you?" "No," Caleb said, "but stay close, in case I need to leave. Fast." Then he turned to me. "Mom, if this ends badly, I don't know how I'm going to face everyone. You'll face them like a man, with truth, with dignity, and with people who love you," I said, finally reaching out and taking his hand. "And if everything falls apart, you come home. The door will be open." He took a deep breath. "Then let's go. I've wasted enough time." And he walked out of the room with steady steps. The music from the garden grew louder. The ceremony was about to begin, but the wedding itself, maybe not. We walked down the side stairs of Willow Springs Manor in silence, as if heading toward a battlefield. Caleb led the way, shoulders rigid, face pale. Becca and I followed close behind, not just carrying evidence, but also hope that he would finally see the truth behind the veil. Outside, the garden looked breathtaking. 200 white-covered chairs aligned in perfect rows, each adorned with blue satin bows. A floral arch that looked straight out of a magazine cover. Musicians tuning their violins. Guests flipping through gold-trimmed programs, unaware of what was coming. Caleb veered off to the side, slipping through the decorated trees strung with lights until he reached the hallway that led to the preparation room for the bride and groom. And there, in the side chamber near the main entrance, he saw her, Bianca, dressed in a fitted white gown covered in shimmering lace, a dress meant to dazzle, now looking like a fragile costume about to crumble. Her hair was pulled back in a flawless bun, and when she saw Caleb enter, her face lit up with a smile. That lasted all of 2 seconds, because then she saw the folder in his hands. "What's that?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light. But her eyes, they flickered, a detail I caught even from a distance, watching from behind the half-open door. Caleb stopped in front of her. The room was otherwise empty, except for an assistant who, sensing the tension, quietly slipped away. The sounds of the ceremony outside were muffled in here, like time had folded in on itself, leaving just the two of them. "I need to know the truth," he said quietly. "Have you done this before?" "What are you talking about?" She laughed, but it was a dry, metallic laugh. "You're nervous, babe. It's totally normal. Everything's going to be fine." He opened the folder, pulled out a few sheets, handed them to her. "This is a message you sent to your former roommate, Natalie. Here you talk about the house plan, about how the little mama's boy is ready to take the bait. Is this true?" Bianca stood frozen. Then she smiled, but it wasn't a bride's smile. It was the smile of someone caught red-handed, calculating her next move. "Who gave you this? That jealous witch Natalie? She's obsessed with ruining me. She's bitter. This is fake," she snapped, lunging to snatch the papers from his hands. "Baby, listen to me. This is a low blow." Caleb stepped back. "There are also recordings, screenshots, testimonies from other families. Bianca, if you love me, truly love me, just say it's not true, please." Her anger exploded. She let the papers fall to the ground and clenched her fists. "And what if it is?" she spat, the mask finally shattering. "You think I stuck around for your small-town charm, that sad little apartment and your boring life? I made all of this happen. You were going to have it all, status, clients, parties. Did I gain something from it? Of course I did. Who wouldn't?" "I didn't," Caleb said. His voice was steady now. "I lost my peace, my mother, my friends, and nearly myself." She stormed toward him, finger raised, eyes blazing. "You'll regret this. You'll crash and burn like the rest. You're just a second-rate architect with an inferiority complex." And then, in the face of her rage, Caleb smiled. A sad smile, but one filled with relief. "Maybe. But at least now I'm free." Bianca turned to a table, grabbed a crystal vase, and in a blind rage hurled it at the wall. It shattered into a spray of shards. A scream echoed down the hallway. The door burst open. Andrew rushed in, followed by an event coordinator and 2 security guards. "Is everything okay in here?" Caleb pointed toward the exit. "Please help Bianca leave. There won't be a ceremony today." She screamed, cursed, tried to pull away from the security guards, but it was too late. The truth was out, and the wedding was officially canceled. The murmurs began to ripple through the garden. Guests stood from their chairs, confused, exchanging uncertain glances. The music stopped. The flowers, once symbols of a joyful celebration, now looked like decorations from a wedding that never was. Caleb didn't return to the garden. Instead, he slipped away to the manor's library, a quiet, private room with tall windows, dark wood, and the scent of old books in the air. When I entered, he was there, facing the window, watching the gardens below as the remains of a wedding that would never be dissolved in silence. He had taken off his jacket and undone his tie. His carefully styled hair was slightly tousled now, and his posture, though still tense, had changed. Less concerned with appearances, more grounded, more real. "She's gone," I said softly, not wanting to startle him. "Her parents, too. Though her father tried to blame you for everything before he left." Caleb didn't respond right away. He just slowly ran his hand along the window pane, tracing invisible lines only he could see. "What irony," he said at last. I thought today was the start of the life I'd always dreamed of. But maybe today, I finally woke up. I stepped closer, the scent of aged pages and woodsy cologne filling the room. It was a place made for reflection, for truths that could only be spoken in quiet voices. Caleb. He turned around, and for the first time in months, he looked me in the eye, not as the man trying to appear strong, successful, untouchable, but as the boy I raised, the one still searching for direction, for meaning, for peace. "I was so cruel to you, Mom," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "So blind, so arrogant." "You were human," I replied, settling into one of the nearby armchairs. "And we all make mistakes when we try to love the wrong way." He sat beside me, took my hand gently, as if afraid it might break. "I chose the wrong woman, and I almost threw away the only one who's ever truly been there for me." The tears came without warning, warm, silent, not of sorrow, but relief. Reunion. Becca entered a few moments later, carrying a tray with coffee. She didn't say much, just gave us that subtle, knowing smile of someone who's seen a lot of pain and knows exactly what it looks like when healing begins. "The guests have been informed. Most are leaving," she said as she set the cups down on the table. "And that one's still here. They stayed for him. And for you, Maggie." "Thank you, Becca," Caleb whispered. She left us then, mother and son, in a quiet space made for healing. "I don't know what to do now," he admitted. "My career, my image, it all feels like it's crumbling." "Then rebuild it. But this time, do it right," I said, gently squeezing his hand. "You're an architect, and now you have clean ground. You can start again, with a foundation that's real." He let out a weak laugh, but it was real. And in that moment, even with everything around us in pieces, I knew the worst had passed. Outside, the first drops of rain tapped gently against the window like soft fingertips, and Caleb, still watching the darkening sky, whispered, "Can I come home tonight?" I looked at him with the kind of love that makes such questions unnecessary. The door has always been open. That night, the sound of rain tapping on the roof of my old house in Elderwood felt like a lullaby for the soul. Caleb was asleep in his old bedroom, the same one from his childhood, where the growth marks were still etched on the doorframe. I stood in the doorway for a while, quietly watching. His suit lay draped over the chair, and on the nightstand sat the old silver compass I had finally given him when we came home. "May it always help you find your way back, whenever you feel lost," I told him as I placed it in his hands. Now everything felt calm and silently beginning again. In the days that followed, he changed the locks on his apartment, cut ties with the Bradfords, and, with the support of Andrew and Becca, sought legal counsel to address the damage to his reputation. But that wasn't what moved me most. What touched me deeply was seeing my son sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in one hand and an open notebook in the other, sketching ideas for affordable housing. "Maybe it's time to build architecture with purpose," he said. And I knew. The man who had returned home was not the same one who nearly married for appearances. He was whole. He had learned through pain. The following Saturday, Caleb invited a few friends over to the backyard. Simple, casual, no satin ribbons, no hired musicians. Just real people with real smiles. They brought pies, stories, memories. Bianca was now just a closed chapter, but a necessary one. I sat on the porch, watching it all unfold with a kind of gratitude words can't fully capture. Because sometimes, life pushes us to the edge, not to make us fall, but to show us we can fly. And if you've made it this far, maybe this story echoed in a quiet corner of your heart. Maybe you too were left out, dismissed or forgotten by someone you loved. And if that's true, know this. True love doesn't demand property. It builds memories, it respects roots, and above all, it sees your worth, not what you can offer. My house wasn't sold, but my son was brought back. And today, I carry no bitterness, only growth. Because there's dignity in protecting your peace, even when the world tells you to stay quiet. If this story touched you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear that truth, no matter how painful. Always clears the way for a new beginning. And remember, even when everything feels like it's falling apart, there's still time to come home.